Hey everyone, welcome to the Imperfect show. I'm Susanna, this is Jeremy. This week we are talking about something that is, I think, really prevalent in our society today and something that is a part of most people's lives
Right.
for one reason or another. And we want to talk about social media and what that looks like for you, what that looks like maybe for our family, also what maybe some of the positives and negatives of social media usage and the influence that it can have in the lives of your children, but also in your family and in your personal life. And we just wanted to bring this to you. This is something that I think for me personally, social media has been a weird thing because some people are totally into it, and I find myself like I'm really into it, and then I kind of back off. I've taken sabbaticals from social media, and so I kind of have a love-hate relationship
The old social media
with social media.
Right.
So we just kind of wanted to talk about this. It's something we've discussed together about
Right.
bringing to you before, and so that's what this week's episode is about.
Yep. Yeah, social media is a weird thing. Billions of people on the planet using social media. And yet it's probably the most demonized technology on the planet as well. So it's a really interesting relationship that we as humans have with social media. It hasn't been around really that long when we think about the course of human history and how humans have traditionally communicated. There were many generations, thousands of years, really without a telephone, without a telegraph, without any way to communicate long distance. And then when those two things came on scene, there was another 100 years before really any of that changed. And then email, but that wasn't generally accepted. But once everything started moving and social media finally came on the scene, it is now really the primary way that people communicate. I know people still make phone calls. Sometimes. But on our cell phones, and this is, at least as Americans, this is true, we make fewer phone calls than we do communicate through text or social media messaging apps. So it's a really interesting technology. It's a technology that can be used really well. I was just having this conversation today, actually, with Michael Cameron, our marketing director at the Mighty Oaks Foundation, talking about how many people use social media really well. They raise money for good causes. They start businesses. They get out important messages and just important information and communicate ideas. So many good things come from social media, but so many damaging things can come from social media as well. And there are, I don't know, probably thousands of videos talking about the dangers of social media and how to use social media well. Thousands, tens of thousands of videos on how to use social media in a positive way. So this is not new information. It's just us talking about it from our own perspective and trying to really navigate it. We talk about the Imperfect show. I think there are some things we feel a little more, not perfect, but closer. Some topics that we feel closer to perfect or closer to having it figured out. This is not one of them. We go back and forth, even as a family, on the best way to handle this. Our kids, our older two kids, did not have access really to social media until they were 17.
Graduated from high school.
Yeah, graduated from high school. Mm-hmm. Our younger kids, 10 and 12, now have limited access to social media, some messaging apps to communicate with their friends, YouTube in a limited context. And so we're even growing in our understanding of how all of this works and how it works well. So yeah, I want to talk about it. This may be something that you want to chime in on and leave some comments and some thoughts and some ideas on. But we would all, I think, agree that there can be a damaging side to social media, but there can also be a very positive side. So let's talk about both of those first. Let's talk first about for a child or for a young person. I won't say child, but a young person. What are some of the hard things, damaging things? Damaging is such a strong word, but some of the dangers of social media for a young person growing up right now.
It seems like one of the more obvious ones maybe would be the people finding you, on social media and friending you, and you can have conversations on social media with people maybe that your parents don't know. I think I would say that's probably one of the dangers that a lot of people would say, that it's an opportunity for your child to have something that maybe you are not overseeing.
Right.
And I think that kind of goes along with that too. Maybe some parents kind of get a little lazy in, checking the phone or checking the social media, things like that. And so I think one of the dangers probably is your child being able to have access to people that they probably wouldn't on a normal, regular basis.
We talk a lot about, you and I have talked about this in the last couple of days, about how social media can be used for nefarious purposes, for even criminal purposes, particularly adults to children. I think a point needs to be made, and this to me is an important point, that young people growing up have always done things their parents didn't agree with, and have always found ways to go around whatever system or rules are established. And so social media didn't create this. And I think sometimes we talk about social media and some of the problems that have come with it as though Facebook or Instagram or these messaging apps, they've created this problem. They've created an environment where kids want to do wrong and want to go do things they're not supposed to do. That's not the case. But it provides easier access in a lot of ways, which is why parents need to be more engaged to make sure that their kids are using that technology in the right way.
It just makes it easier for kids to, go behind their parents' backs. I mean, I've heard so many stories of kids having like fake accounts. They have an actual one that their parents can follow, then they have a secret one that has a completely different name. So it definitely makes it a lot easier for kids to try to go against what their parents have asked for them to do. And so I feel like that's kind of an obvious one. Most parents would say, this is the reason I don't want my kids to have social media, is because I don't want them to put themselves out there for people to see them, kind of all of that. I think another danger, and this is something that I mentioned to you, is if you have girls, but I kind of feel like it's with boys now too, is the comparison, for them to get into that comparison, especially on something like Instagram, where it's just pictures and people are always putting pictures on themselves with filters most of the time. So it's not really even like what they actually look like. And so for a teenage girl to be on social media like that, and I mean, you've probably heard the numbers too of how many hours a day an average teenager spends on social media. Literally, that's scrolling through pictures of other people, fun things they're doing, outfits they're trying on, and it's them looking their best, them doing the most fun thing that they're doing, and for them to fall into that comparison. And I feel like that can be really damaging to a girl's self-esteem, to a girl's where she's finding her identity. And so that's just a huge danger. And I would say for girls, because I think that's easy to fall into, but I think for guys too, that can be a really easy thing to start comparing your situation with someone else's. And so especially for teenage boys, I think that's a really difficult time for them emotionally, in every way. They're growing, and then for them to then be faced with this thing. So again, it's just really important for parents to be involved in that way as well. And we didn't allow our kids to have social media until they graduated from high school for certain reasons. I don't think it was that big of a thing.
We always say we trust our kids, we just don't trust other people's kids. That's probably not the best explanation, but you can't control what other people are doing, and so you don't want to give your kids access to some of that.
Yeah, but those are the two kind of main, I think, dangers right now that I can think of, and we've heard of suicide rates, of teenagers. They're kind of at an all-time high. Because they have access to so many things. I mean, right now, especially, we're kind of, there's not really a whole lot of things for them to do. They're stuck at home anyway, so they're spending more time on social media, more time on their phones. But even before, this whole situation, I just kept feeling like I was hearing suicide rates amongst teenagers and young people just going up and going up and going up. And a lot of it is because of social media and them spending so much time on that, and it's just not real.
It's that comparison that if you're already fragile and you're dealing with things emotionally anyhow, when you start comparing, the Bible talks a lot about covetousness and lust. And lust we always think of in a sexual context, but it's not really. I mean, it can be. We talked to our kids about this the other day, is covetousness or coveting is wanting something that someone else has. It's really that simple. Lust is wanting something that you can't have, that you don't have access to. And so, again, the Bible talks about both of those as driving people to do things they wouldn't normally do. And when I was a kid, we would get around Christmas time all the store magazines with all the toys in it, and you spend hours looking over the same things. But really, that was it. but we had nowhere to go from there. Social media is like that, multiplied times thousands, because you can go and go and go and go and look at another picture and another picture and another picture. And it creates this, I want what they have, I want what I can't have. And on the other side of that often is feelings of inferiority, feelings of I could never be that good, I could never accomplish that thing, what I have isn't good enough, a lack of gratefulness. We've talked about gratefulness in the last few weeks, being ungrateful. How in the world in the United States is anyone ungrateful? And I know some people struggle, a lot of people struggle, I understand that, but part of the reason we are so ungrateful is because we're constantly comparing ourselves to what other people at least project that they have.
Yeah. And
the danger of that for an adult is high. It causes real problems. But for a young person who is growing emotionally, their brains are still developing, and they're still really trying to figure out where they fit in the world, that can be absolutely damaging to who they are as a human being.
Mm-hmm. And then just the way that they're building relationships with other people. And that's, when we were saying that it's not real, you can look at other people's, things and it's not the real person. It's the best version of them. Again, when you're building relationships with people on social media, it's not real.
Right.
There's like a buffer there between you and the other person.
Right.
There is something about having a face-to-face conversation with someone.
Sure.
And and interacting with them in person.
Yeah.
And so when you build a relationship with someone, I don't think there's anything wrong with messaging and all those things, but when you're doing that more than you're actually spending time with or talking with people, then that can be a real danger as well, because we need to be learning how to, and teaching our kids really learning how to build relationships with people,
right.
Not through a screen, not through texting or messaging or social media app, but actually face-to-face, real live conversations and interactions with other people.
Yeah, we are losing the ability to really communicate, particularly on a deep level. And this is, an interesting cultural phenomenon in the United States when we talk about divorce rates and how they peaked. We say it's about 50% in the United States, but then they held there, and everyone has asked the question, why do they hold? Because on the other side of that, marriage rates have plummeted. And so in the United States, young people, even younger adults, are either getting married much later or not getting married at all. And a big part of that is this inability to form deep, lifelong relationships. It is the ability to have a relationship that's exciting because that's how it started for a short period of time, and then to move on to another relationship. But when we think about the long-term implications of that in marriages, in things that we're concerned about, churches and church growth and stability in communities, all of these things that used to be fundamental to who we are culturally as Americans is going away. And in part because we're conditioning children to have very superficial relationships, and so they don't know how to do it any other way.
Yeah. This is something that we've been trying, we have been talking about this to our kids quite a bit here recently, just to work on having those types of conversations. Look at the person in the face,
right.
Actually talk to them, figure out what you're going to say. A lot of times, before I get together with a friend or before, I meet with someone, it's either for a reason or I already know, I want to ask them about this, or I want to talk to them about this, or I know that they've gone on this trip, and so I want to find out about that. And so planning out conversations with the person before you see them, instead of just shooting off a text. And most of the time, we're talking about social media, but with messaging through that, or getting to know someone through that, or just having a social media relationship with someone, it's not really, you're not really thinking about it ahead of time. You're just kind of putting a picture on there, sharing a comment or making a comment on what they've said. And so it's actually building a relationship with someone that is meaningful.
Right. And then with all of that, I think, we've mentioned all the dangers of that. At the end of the line to that, to me, is an inability to think critically. We are removing the exercises intellectually that are needed to think critically. And again, this is so clear right now when you look at social media, which is you're either for me or against me. There will be no discussion about what we see happening. It's an argument all the time, but it's not an argument to change someone's opinion or to even give a new perspective. It's to convince you that you are wrong. And part of that is the superficial relationships. Part of it is We're removed from the physical interaction that brings with it emotion and even some sense of danger. If I say the wrong thing, how will they respond? There could be a physical response. There's so much that goes into dealing with people one-on-one that when we remove that, my need even to think deeper than, a couple of lines of text or a couple of sentences on a social media post, it's removed. And so there's that on the intellectual, deep thinking side. But then we've also replaced reading books and doing things that require cognitive processes to develop our thought and our ability to think. We've removed those things, and they can be developed, they can be exercised, they can be improved, and we've replaced them with media and mediums that don't require thought. And it's easy and it's comfortable, and so we don't have to think, but it creates a sense of feel good or danger or whatever. All of these feelings we would get from real life, we can have in a safe environment that does not require thought. And so in addition to all of the other things, we're creating adults who've never been taught how to think critically, how to take a concept and dig into that concept, get the facts behind it, and come to their own conclusions. And so, the dangers of social media are very real. But that being said, social media is a tool. There's a lot of argument about manipulating social media, but really the technology is amoral. It's neither good or bad. It's about how it's used. And we have to understand there are some real dangers, but there are some real positives about social media as well. And to have only one side of this discussion, I don't think is really helpful. We need to understand there are some really, really good things. I can't imagine living through a season like the one we're in now without the ability to communicate through technology. And on every level, our church, we're having services in person now, but even with that, we're connecting to thousands of folks virtually through social media because we can. There's interaction on live feeds, so there is the ability to communicate in a real way. But there are a lot of other good benefits to social media.
And I feel like a lot of the reasons that people, even at the beginning, when everything started with like Facebook and all of that, one of the reasons that a lot of people were excited about it was to be able to connect with, family, people that you haven't seen in a while, family that lives across the country, or maybe, on another part of the world, missionaries. And so that to be able to connect with people in that way, I think is a real positive to social media, to be able to keep up with your family, to be able to kind of see what's going on. I have family members in Germany that I'm able to keep in touch with through social media where I normally maybe wouldn't be able to. And so I feel like that's a huge positive, is just to be able to continue to have that connection with people, especially family, and maybe catch up with old friends. And I feel like that's been, we've been able to keep up even with college friends and reconnect and find people. And so I feel like that's a huge positive, and it's such an encouragement to connect with people that are doing good things and that are, moving forward with their life in a positive way. And I think that's been a huge encouragement for us.
Yeah, it's a great tool for staying connected and continuing connections. And we could say, well, we could call. And people are down on this, right? Like, we could just pick up the phone. How often did you pick up the phone to talk to your family on the other side of the country or the other side of the world? Once a year?
Yeah.
But now you can do it every day if you want to, and it's fairly passive. You put information out, people see what's going on. We visited your family last year and the year before, so the last 2 years, in Germany, and it's great to be able to go to somewhere like that, and you're not starting from zero. There is context, we have connections, we know something about each other, even though we haven't been together, and it really has made the world much smaller and much more accessible, and that's great. It also provides a tremendous platform to communicate information. I think of in the Christian world, we think of people around the world in what we call closed countries where they don't have access maybe to some of the printed materials that we do, Bibles and so forth. They don't have the ability, because of their government, to go to a church in on any large scale. They do have the ability still in many of these countries to get on the internet, to do some workarounds, but they can get access to information they would not have otherwise. And Imagine where we would be without that. And then just folks with good messages, people with positive messages that have never had the opportunity to broadcast those. Now, every single person with an internet connection and a little bit of creativity that has a message, they have the ability to broadcast that out. And whether people listen to it or not may be a different thing, but what an amazing opportunity to speak truth, give hope, to be encouraging, and as we mentioned, to raise money for causes and to do really, really important things in a much larger way than we ever could have before.
I feel like our church has seen, such a huge impact from that during this time, and kind of stepped up, in the social media way
Right.
to reach out to people. And I feel like people have been responsive, and I don't think we'll ever know, maybe here on earth, how many people have been reached through just our church's ministry, because I know people have watched services and seen posts and just encouraging messages or little 5-minute devotionals that have been posted from across the world. And that's just our church, and I can't even imagine what from other churches nationwide that have been able to, worldwide, that have been able to do the same. And just so the impact that has been able to be had through social media during this time where people are more active on it, that's been huge.
And that would be true of any a faith message for sure, but really any positive message. There are people who we make fun of, or I make fun of people who watch videos that are real emotional and real weepy and those kind of things. I make fun of it, but those can be extremely encouraging to someone who they're looking for a lifeline, they're looking for a reason to go on, or some different perspective on their life, and someone they've never met, they'll never meet, someone they do not know, put something together that's an encouragement to them. And man, what an amazing opportunity we have to impact so many people in a positive way. I think another tremendous thing that has come from social media is just access to information. And we could say that's made us lazy, because I think it has. We don't have to go to the library or jump on, get an encyclopedia. But we can get on the internet, and even through social media, it is so powerful to find information about what's going on in the world, what has gone on in the world, and to really improve ourselves.
That's been helpful for with even like our homeschooling, and I feel like through that we've been able to find things that maybe the kids normally would have to have gone to the library, which obviously we can't do right now. And so that has been a huge help to us, through social media videos. Our kids actually found out that there were some webcams at the San Diego Zoo and the Safari Park, and they were on the social media platform. And so they've been able to watch these animals and the different enclosures and watch their behavior and see, and we wouldn't be able to do that normally. And so that's been, even education-wise, has been, the kids have had access to so many different things through that way too.
So there are a lot of dangers, clearly. There are some tremendous benefits and some blessings. I also think that as a parent, particularly as a, we're kind of on the other side of this, as we're in our early 40s or mid 40s.
Early 40s.
We did not grow up with social media, and so we could say, we saw when it started, and maybe that means it will end. It's not going to end. It's not going anywhere. So understanding that there are two sides to it, we need to then, I think as parents, develop a strategy for our children to help them use social media. And social media, all media now just about is social. You can comment and interact with most kinds of media right now, not all, but most. And that's just going to improve, change, adjust, but it will always be here. And so we need to put some things in place that can help our kids use it in a positive way and stay away from some of the negatives. What are some of the, I know you spend a lot of time on this and work with our kids on this. What are some of the positive ways that we can help our kids use social media?
I mean, I think it depends on what you talk about. When I think of social media, I think of like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. Like when you go on and you actually make an account and you are able to interact with other people or, post stuff and whatever. If you're talking about that, like our kids don't have access to any of that social media. Our kids don't have access to Facebook.
Our young kids.
Our young kids, our older kids.
So
Facebook,
forgets
Instagram.
We have
you know,
4
all of
kids.
that. I'm talking about I consider our older ones to be adults.
They're
so
adults,
they're,
okay.
you know, managing their life.
I see.
But when they did start using social media, if we're going to include them in this, I guess, we did talk to them about just kind of the cautions of it and maybe some of the dangers that we talked about here already. You know, interacting with people, talking to people. We are both following our kids on those social media platforms, so we kind of see, you know, who their friends are and how they're interacting with them, you know, and all of that. Our younger kids don't have access to that. I mean, and we really limit their time even spent on like YouTube or, you know, those kinds of things. They are not allowed to have, you know, they each have a phone, but it's like for emergency purposes, and, you know, and they're not allowed to have them in their bedrooms. If they're on the computer, it has to be out here, like in a public, in kind of the main area of our house. They have to ask for permission. It's very monitored. And so that is really just to instill in them just that accountability of where, you know, they shouldn't be looking at anything or watching anything or having a conversation with someone that it cannot be seen by one of us.
Right. I think with that though, they don't have Facebook on their phones, or they don't have access for it that way. Mm-hmm. But it's very common for us to pull them into one of our social media accounts and show them a video or show them something or include them in what's happening there. And I think that's part of it. It's not that we have communicated to them that this is forbidden and it's evil and you shouldn't do it. Yeah. And I think that sometimes that's where the problems come in, is the kids have been told they can't, they shouldn't. They're going to end up in a van with no windows if they get on this. Yeah. And that's not what the goal. That's not the goal. We're just trying to help them work through the process of maturing emotionally and psychologically. And part of that is giving them limited access to some of those things. They have a messaging app that they can use to message their friends. We see all of those messages, but they can do that. They can get on YouTube. Some of that's restricted, but they have the ability to do that. And then they're around social media, and we try to teach them how to use it positively, and talking to them about the dangers of it, so that as they grow into, get to the age where they're adults, they're always your kids. They're never adults. But when they get to the place where the state of California recognizes them as adults, and they are able to open those accounts and do those things, and they are managing their own stuff, they've been taught how to do that in a productive way.
I think that's the important thing, is just teaching them kind of a balance of that. There's dangers, but there's also a lot of really good things. Right. We've talked about some of those. And yeah, it's like showing a video, or, there's a lot of encouragement to be found through that. And so allowing them to see that too, and not just, having them have no access to it at all, or access to me by like through us, but just showing them. I mean, sometimes someone posts a really cool video or some family pictures or something, and allowing them to kind of interact with it in that way as well, and to be able to see some of those things, I think is really important. And it's really the parents taking the responsibility to teach them the balance of, the dangers, but then also the positives. And I mean, it's all of life anyways, there's, but this especially because it's such a, social media is such a weird, there is such a buffer between, like we said, real relationships. And so really just teaching them what the, how to use it properly and how to have a balance in using it. Right. And, as far as time and all those things, but it's almost like stepping stones, I feel like, teaching them how to manage screen time and, time on what is appropriate to watch. Right. And, I feel like it's just like stepping stones until when they get to the place where, okay, they can open a social media account, then they'll be in a place where they'll be able to understand. These are the things to watch out for. These are, some of the good ways to use it. These are some ways that can be encouragement to other people through it. And so I feel like it is kind of a stepping stone approach.
Right. Maybe. Yeah, and all of this, and we've talked about this so many times, it's parents taking responsibility for their children. We talked about education a few weeks ago or whenever that was, and one of the points that we made was it is the parents' responsibility to educate the children. That's not just in reading, writing, and arithmetic, and history, and science. It's in all of life. And I think that where young people and parents typically, I know there are exceptions, but typically run into problems in this area is when parents step back and say it's going to be okay, that could never happen to my child, they'll be able to monitor themselves. They absolutely cannot monitor themselves. And that's not their fault. There's nothing wrong with them if they can't. It's that they're children, they're still trying to figure out life, and we're giving them access to all of the information in the world. And a lot of people who would seek to do them harm, even just through information. And so it really does come back down to parents just taking responsibility, not holding the kids here, but preparing them to be adults that can be productive in their families and society, really.
Yeah, teaching them just how to manage that, managing a phone, managing a computer, limiting time, and really showing them an example for yourself of doing that too.
Yeah.
If you're constantly stuck on your phone, if you're constantly carrying it around, if you're constantly on it instead of having real conversations with them, then you're not really setting a very good example of how to do that for them.
Yeah.
And so when they see you doing that, they're just going to follow suit. And so it is the reality of this generation that the people coming behind us are going to be using this more. And so it is our responsibility to teach them how to do it responsibly, how to set limits for themselves, not first thing in the morning until late at night, but teaching them how to properly use it that they can be healthy growing up, they can be safe, and it is our responsibility.
That's right. Don't be afraid. Don't be upset that this is where we live or whatever. Every parent, every generation has had something they've had to deal with, and I get it. Social media and technology is supercharged, and it's a lot to figure out. But just be responsible and do what you would do to raise your kids in a healthy, productive way in any other area, with any other technology, with anything else that they might be exposed to. And you'll be fine. This is the world we live in, so we'll continue to help them grow and develop in that. That's it.
That's it.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. Well, if Susanna thinks of anything else she wants to add, we'll do another show.
I'll make sure I get it in before we're done.
Okay, and we'll do another show. But if you have any ideas or thoughts on that, love to hear them. Go ahead and put them in the comment section. I know this is something that just about everyone has opinions on. You may not know what to do with your own kids, but you have an opinion about it. I'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear them. Drop them in there, and maybe we'll talk about them in the next couple of weeks. But thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.